All right, thank you for being here tonight for our joint candidate forum between Pensacola Young Professionals and the Greater Pensacola Chamber of Commerce. Thank you again to PYP for co-hosting this with us. Thank you all for being here tonight. Obviously, elections are very important, and we've got some great races happening this year. So we really appreciate you being here to be a part of this. Just for some general awareness, these are being live streamed on social media platforms, so these will be out there as well. And we look forward to hearing from our candidates. I do want to point out a few elected officials that are here tonight. We have Sheriff Chip Simmons. We have Vicki Campbell from ECUA District 1. And did I miss anyone? Well, no, he's a candidate. He's going to be up here. So, oh yeah, Judge Burgash. Judge, thank you for being here. Right. So, oh, and I did not see Representative Alex Andrade. Thanks for being here. And Jilly. So a few rules of the road before we get started. So we're doing all the candidates for each race up at the same time. So we'll have county commission first. Every county commission candidate in all three districts will come up and sit up here. You have microphones behind each of your stools, so just grab those when you get up there. We'll have the district, we'll start District 1 and then just as kind of fill in as we move down. And we'll jump each race or each district as we ask each question. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening. So you give just who you are, your bio, why you're running. And then once we get into questions, we'll have 4 questions for each race, and you'll have 1 minute for your response. Just so you know, so to keep us on track, we will have at 20 seconds, the yellow sheet of paper will come up. At 10 seconds, the red-pink sheet will come up, and then as your time expires, we have a lovely bell that'll ring obnoxiously, and that'll make sure you know that your time is up. So with that, ask all the county commission candidates to come up, fill in, and we'll give you your 2 minutes to introduce yourselves.
Hey, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank Pensacola Young Professionals, Pensacola Chamber, Todd Thompson, Museum of Commerce. Thank you for doing this. My name is Jeff Burgash. I'm currently your District 1 County Commissioner. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve the citizens in this community, where I grew up as a young kid with my brother, living in a trailer on Valdosta Street till we were both adopted. We were from the wrong side of the tracks, figuratively, literally. Never supposed to amount to anything. I'm very proud of my brother. He made it to judge, and I'm proud of the hard work that I've done, making it through the school board and then the county commission. This is a great community, lots of potential, lots of great projects in the works, and even more good news to come. I appreciate everyone being here, but especially I appreciate my lovely, beautiful wife, Sally Burgash. She's the greatest. She's been a saint in my life. Without her and my 3 kids, I just don't know where I'd be. So I'm proud to be here, proud to be on the ballot. I would encourage you to go to my website, jeffburgash.com. I've completed a strategic plan. It's called 24 Forward Escambia. I did that utilizing input from citizens that I've met going to thousands of doors, door to door. So look forward to a lot of great things. And by the way, breaking news today, in District 1, Escambia County, we just got a $240 million appropriation to fully fund the Beulah interchange. It's been a 7-year evolution. Thanks to Senator Broxton, thanks to Alex Andrade, thanks to Michelle Salzman, the state legislature. That's going to be a great game changer for District 1. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Appreciate it.
I'm Jesse Casey. I'm a real simple person. The reason I'm here tonight to run for county commissioner is I want to help the people. And that's what I'm all about. Listening to people and any concerns they have, give them time to think and talk to you. You know, they have somebody to reach out to. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'm not a professional speaker by no means, but in my heart, I'm doing it for the people, and I will continue as long as these feet will move me forward. And that's what it's all about, helping people, infrastructure, and I almost hate to say, but this Beulah 4-lane, I mean, it should have been here years ago. Infrastructure, we need to reach out with the state and draw it together and make it safe for all our kids, you know, schools. And I know I'm talking in circles here, but like I say, hadn't had this much audience in a long time. But thank you. But each one of you, every person in Escambia County, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help them. And I want to listen to them. I don't have an agenda. I don't have something that, hey, I want to accomplish. I've been blessed. I don't need the money. You know, the guy above, he's blessed me. And I was poor when I was growing up, and I didn't know it. But that's what I'm here for, is to help every person in this county. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ashley Hoffberger, and I've been asked what sets me apart from the other candidates. Certainly, my business background is stronger. I've started 6 businesses, I've ran teams of over 70 people, and I've done over $65 million in emergency response work in a single season. But what truly sets me apart is my passion. I'm going to share with you 2 very personal stories that have brought me to run for county commissioner. We called 911 because my 2-year-old had a seizure, and they were unable to provide us with an ETA on the ambulance. No one in our community should pick up the phone to call 911 and not know if and when an ambulance is going to arrive. Our first responders agree with me. I've received the endorsement from our local EMTs and paramedics. I am the only District 4 candidate with an endorsement from our first responders. I want to make it easier to do business in Escambia County. Our permitting processes are antiquated. Our zoning and planning department lacks inefficiencies. It took me over 13 weeks to get an approval for an interior remodel. We are missing the opportunity to create jobs in our community through small businesses because the carrying cost of doing business in Escambia County is too high due to too much bureaucracy, not enough automation, and little accountability. Walker will tell you he sits on the Planning and Zoning Board. Yes, he has done so for the last 4 years as a representative of District 3. You can continue to place undue burdens on small businesses, or you can choose to elect change. Let's make a difference and make it easier to do business in Escambia County. If you want a business-minded person who will serve you with transparency, accountability, and results-driven leadership, someone who will work alongside you to provide a safe and thriving community, I am asking for your vote on August 20th.
My name is Walker Wilson, and I'm another Republican candidate for County Commission District 4. I grew up here in Pensacola, moved here when I was a young kid, and went to kindergarten through 12th grade in District 4 schools. After that, went off to Auburn University for college and did what I think many of us in PYP used to call the Pensacola pilgrimage, where we moved off to another city and then came back home after a few years. I moved back home in 2016 and immediately joined Pensacola Young Professionals, and I want to thank y'all in the chamber for hosting this tonight. This is typically one of the most looked forward to forums that goes on throughout an election season, and former PYP president myself, I know that it takes a lot for you all to get involved and really put in the effort to give young people in this community a seat at the table. And Joining PYP, I met some great friends along the way, started a nonprofit called On Bikes Pensacola that we've been running since 2016, where we raise funds and give bikes to kids in this community for Christmas. And we've given away about 4,000 bikes to kids in this community since 2016, and I'm proud to have done that with a small group of folks that I did meet in PYP. I'm running because experience matters and effectiveness matters. We need somebody that can get in this job and be ready on day one. And I feel like I'm that person. I feel like I've had the experience serving on the planning board as the executive director of the Downtown Improvement Board and running my own small business for the past 12 years, that I've had the experience that'll lead me in the right direction to get ready to go on day one as serving as the next county commissioner for District 4. And I think that's evident. Today, I was proud to get the endorsement of Representative Alex Andrade, and met him and his wife Jessica in PYP when I first joined this organization years ago. And so I'm thankful for that. And we're going to need great relationships at the state. There's a lot of money that this community needs to draw back from the state, and I certainly feel like I'm the best prepared to do that, and look forward to doing that in this role. And I want to ask for your vote on August 20th. And you can visit votewalkerwilson.com to learn more about my campaign. Thanks so much.
Pensacola Young Professionals and members of the Chamber of Commerce, good evening. My name is Buck Mitchell, and I'm running for County Commissioner, District 4. I'm honored to stand before you today. I believe that our future depends on the strength and vision of our young professionals and our vibrant business community. Our district, and indeed our county, is at a crossroad. We face significant changes, but we also have incredible opportunities. Our young professionals are the backbone of our future and prosperity. Many of you know my story. For the last 3 decades, my family and I have run Seville Quarter and the District Steakhouse in downtown Pensacola. I once was a young, up-and-coming professional, and I've learned many things along the way in business. My children now are young professionals entering the workforce in this crazy world. My 35 years of owning a business has taught me that we must create an environment where business can thrive and where innovation is encouraged. I will work tirelessly to attract new businesses to our area, support local entrepreneurs, and ensure that we have infrastructure in place to sustain growth. This means investing in technology, improving our transportation systems, and streamlining the regulatory process to make it easier to start and grow a business here in Escambia County. My campaign is focused on common sense growth that helps foster a business atmosphere to produce high-paying jobs to keep our young professionals here at home so they don't have to move away to another city to start their careers and raise their families. I will champion policies that will promote affordable housing options, reduce barriers for first-time homebuyers, and ensure that our housing market is inclusive and fair. Together, we can make Escambia County a place where young professionals and business not only succeed but thrive. I ask you for your support, your ideas, and your vote. Let's build a bright future for District 4 and all of Escambia County. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Helms. I'm running for County Commission District 4, obviously. Tell you a little bit about me. I'm a business owner, a military veteran, and I've done a lot in our community. I also want to tell you that I'm ordained clergy. I pastored churches in Norfolk, Virginia, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and my long-term pastorate was in Rochester, New York. If you want some snow in your life, that's the place to be. So I think you're all in the right place. So I'm running in this race because I have a passion for public service. I have a passion for what matters to each and every one of you and our community. You go to Board of County Commissioner meetings and you never know what you're going to get. There's lots of public forum time, lots of back and forth on issues that have already pretty much been decided. I will be a voice for you and the people that are not present today, the entire Escambia County. I know flood issues. I know the housing issues. I know that we have slumlords in this county that really take advantage of the most difficult times in some people's life. I know a lot of issues that are paramount to you because you've taken the time to share them with me. And I invite you to continue to do that. I am a fiscal conservative. What does that mean? That means that I want to go through every inch of the budget. I think there's a lot of government waste, and I think funds could be used differently than how we're fully doing it today. I also am very strong on ethics. Of course, as a pastor, you know all about ethics, but how you live your life in community is paramount. How you lead others and the concerns of their hearts and their families' lives is important. I will serve on the Escambia County Commission as your voice, and with your vote, I'll do well. I just would close with this. I haven't given a sermon in a very long time, but anytime I give a sermon, I spend time in prayer and preparation like all pastors do, I hope. But then I begin to reflect about what is the goal of the sermon. And for me, it's about being the better of ourselves. And I've already talked to many of you, as I said, and I believe in each and every one of you. Opponent or not, I believe in you. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote in November. Thank you.
I just want to take a second before I get an introduction. How great is this? This is exciting. We are here as neighbors and citizens just having a peaceful night, and we have the opportunity to be the voice of the citizens, the hundreds and thousands of citizens of this county. That's amazing. All right, well, I'm Joshua Robertson, running as an NPA out in District 5. So that means that I don't have a primary, and I get to run to the finish in November 5th. Just clearing that up. So it's just amazing that we're here peacefully and get to enjoy each other tonight and get to go over these topics. And it goes, thank you for your service. It goes to what he served for, and this shows evident that it's coming through right here. In this county, I think it very diverse. I support public safety. It's paramount. Infrastructure needs help. Let's not sugarcoat it. It needs help. The roads, some of them aren't even wide enough to pass two cars on, right? The highways, some of them don't have shoulders to pull off on when your emergency vehicles come by. One of the candidates spoke about the EMS. We know that's an issue. We need to support public safety. We need to support the infrastructure. We need to support the teachers. Better schools, better raise the future leaders of tomorrow. It will keep the people here. It will keep the rising up of the future here. The housing, I'm not sure I agree with the government getting involved with private ventures. But anyway, Joshua Robertson, District 5. You can visit my website. It's Joshua Robertson, TACD5.com. Thank you.
So are you ready for the first question?
Yes.
All right, so the question is, how can businesses and county government work together to reduce the panhandling challenge facing our community?
Thank you so much for that question. I appreciate it. I believe that people panhandle out of desperation, and we have got to create a path to them from where they currently are to their next step in life. I don't think you should be homeless in Escambia County. I think it's a result of something terrible that happened to you, and as a community, we have to rally around those people. But we have to make that a clear path. We need a low barrier shelter for these people to go to. That's going to be really expensive for the county to foot. So we can work on private-public partnerships. We can work on funding together. We can work on partnering with nonprofits. There is a lot of room for us to partner with the community to make a safe place for our homeless to go and get to the next step in life. So once you do the low barrier shelter, they can move to housing where it's multiple people per unit. And then once that happens, they can move into tiny homes. We've got to work on planning and zoning so we can create these places and make sure they're in locations that are safe for our community. But we have just over 1,100 homeless people in Escambia County right now. That's a huge amount for our population. The chronically homeless person in the county costs about $31,000 a year in taxpayer dollars. So if we look at what we're actually spending on the problem, we could really create a solution. So I think it's diving into the numbers, identifying what we need, and moving forward with a plan to take them from being homeless to being independent.
All right. Well, cities and counties all across the state are going to have to do something after the legislation got signed by Governor DeSantis, where it's going to be illegal to camp or sleep on public property or in parks or sidewalks, whatever it may be. But counties and cities have to have somewhere to take these individuals to. So a low barrier shelter is certainly one of those options that has some wraparound services in it, with some workforce development, mental health, or drug addiction recovery. And there's a part of me that obviously feels bad for the individuals that are out on the street panhandling and they're homeless and have ended up on hard times. And the other side is, how do I weigh that with the fact that, is it the responsibility of the Escambia County taxpayer to foot the bill to fix the problem? We do have reports of other cities and states that are sending homeless individuals here, whether that from not this area, they come and drop them off. We have had reports of that here in the city, and we've seen that in the downtown area. And I've been hearing about this problem for 3.5 years that I've been with the Downtown Improvement Board. One thing that the city passed and the county has this in place too is that panhandlers aren't legally allowed to take anything from a moving vehicle that's in traffic, or even if they're sitting at a stoplight. And so we've seen that help initially downtown, but we've seen another wave of individuals come downtown that are asking for a handout on the sidewalk. The county needs to invest in a low barrier shelter, again, with mental services included into that project, and alcohol and drug addiction recovery as well, so we can help tackle this problem at the root.
Well, I'm a first impression guy, and when you come off the interstate as a tourist or a guest to our town, and the first thing you see is Blythe and panhandling and homelessness, it certainly doesn't make me feel safe, and certainly isn't helping our economic development, which are the two most important things: making sure our citizens are safe and feel like they belong. So what do we do about that? First of all, well, we work on the details. Not everybody who panhandles is homeless. Some of them make a lot of money standing out on the corner with not having a job. Certainly, it's a small percentage of them. Most of them, need that extra money to get to the next day, to get food. And our services around town, we have a lot of great organizations that we should be able to push these people to and make sure that we are taking care of them. Also enforcement, making sure that that we give the sheriff department the tools and back on and when they have to make a decision. It's not good on the sidewalk, and it's certainly good for our development here in Escambia County. We are a compassionate town. We give back. I personally do more charity events than most people for the last 35 years. And I know that this town has a heart, and we certainly want to look out after anybody who is in need. And certainly if you drive around Beggs Lane or any of the other areas in town, you know that there is a need. But there has to be safety. People standing in the middle of the streets, it's not safe. They're walking out in the middle of the street, sleeping on the sidewalk, not safe. So We need to get them in the right services, and we need to make sure that we are compassionate in taking care of them.
Well, he must have read a little bit of my notes. Panhandling and homelessness is a huge eyesore in our town. I have great compassion for people in time of struggle. I'm a business owner. It has been more times than I can count that we've had someone on our front porch or side porch overdosed and in need of help. But you got to be careful. We're not professionals as business owners of dealing with people who have overdosed. So we call for help. I'm thankful to the Sheriff's Department and Chip Simmons for always making sure somebody's there when we need them, to help get them to the next step of where they need to be. Sometimes that means give them Narcan to bring them back to life that's left in them. Sometimes it's take them to the hospital. And sometimes it's just picking them up and telling them they've got to be on their way. That's one way of holding them accountable. Homeless people in this town can tell you where every good place to eat is located. Every place. And just because meals are free doesn't mean they aren't good to eat. But I tell you what, there's a huge difference. I will give compassion to a homeless person until they can pick themselves up with help. But panhandling, it is ridiculous. I think that more people panhandle in this town than there are homeless people. I wish I made nearly half of the money that they made, because they're in the same place for this shift, they're in another place the next shift. They know what they're doing. I think we have a responsibility. I love the low barrier shelter time and I think it's really important that we start and get them to the next step in their life, and hopefully they'll make progress from there.
Ma'am, will you please reread the question?
How can businesses and county government work together to reduce the panhandling challenge facing our community?
Thanks. I just had to go way off my notes because it was nowhere near that. So business owners take the chance to start a business and they're paying the taxes, and I get it, it's a public sidewalk and the legalities of the panhandling legal on the sidewalk. But if the business owner is having an issue with their patrons coming in to go to their store to pay those, so they can pay their taxes and they can pay the fees to have that business, and they have an issue with it and they call respective law enforcement, he's sitting right here, then there should be a response there. And if it's a problem, they should get backup from the county or from the officials that they need it from. However, we're treating a symptom with the panhandling, I think. And if we keep attacking it, and my 1 minute answer, anybody's 1 minute answer is not going to solve this issue, because if it did, we wouldn't be facing it around the country. So treating a symptom is like taking NyQuil. We're just going to go to sleep with it. So attacking the homeless, getting to the root of it, to the homeless problem, I think Ashley said it best with partnerships. Identifying why someone is homeless. If they fell on bad luck and they need a helping hand, help them. If they have a mental instability, let's create a partnership and get them some mental treatment. If they're a criminal element, let's work with law enforcement, create that partnership, and let's get them where they not here. Let's get them where they need to be. And then identify the ones that just want to be what so-called free. They don't deserve any of it. Honestly, they're not putting in. They just want to be left alone. Let's leave them alone. That's all I have.
Well, we do have a significant issue in Escambia County. It's one of the calls that I get on a very frequent basis. The good news is the county currently has resources, and we're putting those into place. I'll tell you about $30,000 that we've earmarked, 9,000 of which that we've spent, that's saved $1 million. It's called Project Real Change Reconnect. What we do is we utilize a faith-based organization. We have them engage with these homeless individuals and find out where they're from, what kind of support system they might have there, and then we make contact with that person, and then we send them back. We've done that with dozens of homeless individuals, and they do drain our social service systems, and so far we've saved the equivalent of $1 million doing that. The other thing that we're doing is we've earmarked $2.9 million in ARP funds, and we're going to use that to help subsidize rent, workforce rent, because there's a lot of folks that are working jobs, but they can't afford to pay rent, and they're taking space in our faith-based shelters. So if we can clear them out and give them a hand up and some job training and some assistance with their rent, that clears space in our shelters. We were going to do a non-conjugate shelter. We decided against that. We put $800,000 into a fund, and we are now taking applications from faith-based organizations to help us find ways to eliminate the problem. Now, when it comes to people panhandling, we have to be very careful because, we know we live in a very litigious society, right? You see the commercials, the girl does a backflip and 2 twists and then says, Alexander Muhammad got me $1 million for my devastating spinal injury. And you're like, well, how in the world are you doing backflips? It's a very litigious society. So if we start arresting people, if the sheriff starts arresting people for panhandling, we will be sued by the ACLU and we will lose. But what we have done is we've crafted an ordinance. You cannot be in the streets, you cannot be in the medians panhandling. If so, you can be arrested. And it's such a good ordinance that the city, God bless them, they took it and mimeographed it and changed the words and implemented the same thing. So we're doing that. We've got a number of faith-based organizations that feed the homeless. The thing is, the poor will always be with us. That's biblical, right? So we have to be compassionate. We're a compassionate community. I know sometimes that works against us because the word gets out, right? And then people come here from other places. But I think it's an approach we have to take. Now, final thing that I'll say as I run out of time. Grant Pass versus Oregon, Supreme Court, Grant Pass Oregon versus Johnson, Supreme Court case was just decided. Cities can penalize, municipalities can penalize folks for sleeping. That's something we're gonna have to contend with because on October 1st, House Bill 1365 becomes active. And we have to start taking care of the folks that are sleeping in the public. If we don't, come January 1st, businesses and individuals can sue the county. So it's something we're planning for. Thankfully, we have Liz Kissel on our staff working very hard. We have a lot of strategies we're implementing, so stay tuned for more of those. But I'm gonna be supportive, and the good news is we do have some resources. Also, I would be remiss if I did not say we have our central intake facility too, which Michelle Salzman and Alex Andrade were very instrumental in getting us, and that helps us because a lot of these folks have untreated, undiagnosed mental illness, and they're out in the streets. So at least now we have a place to take them, so they're not taking space in our jail. Thank you.
I was poor growing up, didn't know it until I was an adult, never was homeless, but there's places to go that are funded, and we educate them to go there. Nobody is above the law. What I'd like to see is our sheriff's department, they have the funding so they can, anybody that breaks the law, whether it's me or anybody else out in the middle of the road, they have the funding to keep everybody safe. Our children, I've noticed there's big camps right next to our schools. There's something wrong with that. Used to, in the earlier days, only thing we had to worry about was our women, and they lived to tell about it. Nowadays, we have to worry about our boys and our girls, and they might not be here later to talk about it. Fund the sheriff's department so they can, anybody doing anything illegal, they can address that.
Thank you, candidates. Next question. How can business and county government work together to establish more attainable housing for our workforce?
I've already kind of broached this topic with earlier when I mentioned not keen on government and private ventures coming together. So slippery slope, and I just think that I do agree with workforce housing, the terminology being used. I definitely believe anyone that chooses to put on a uniform or even teachers and the service workers definitely deserve the opportunity to live in the community that they serve. That 100%. But when we start okaying developers and maybe changing those the codes and allowing the subdivisions to go in for $500,000 and $600,000, per house, I'm not sure that, that's not workforce housing. That's not what we used to call starter homes. So I don't know how the county can get in there except keep up on the infrastructure, keep up on stormwater drainage, and keep up on the public services and public safety.
Well, the issue is a supply and demand issue, plain and simple. For a long time, we didn't have enough supply, and so the prices of rent were through the roof. And so you're working 1 or 2 jobs and you could barely afford rent. In District 1, you take a drive, there's been development, and we've worked with the business community to facilitate that. But now that's a pendulum that swings different directions. And I believe right now the pendulum has swung too far in the direction of, in the favor of the developers. And what do I mean when I say that? I mean that the development that we have allowed to occur has helped the affordable housing. The problem is the infrastructure hasn't kept up. Other places around the country that you see, before they put in a 400-unit apartment, they make them widen the roads. Or look at, is there enough facility, is there enough capacity in the nearby school? It's called concurrency. We had it in the county until 2011. The state took it out of their statutes in 2011, Governor Scott did, and then the county took it out in 2013. I've been trying to put it back in because I think it's a good way to have businesses help us fund the infrastructure along with providing the housing that they do. But I do believe it's a supply and demand thing. I think it's a private market thing. As you see, when a private individual or private business has a piece of property in Escambia County, they can very quickly put up an apartment complex. We get beat up for that. But I'll tell you this, when we put enough of those up, the price does come down. Now, we do have crazy inflation from Washington, D.C. We can't control that. They print money. We have to deal with the fallout. But what we can do on our end is make sure that we have a streamlined process for approval, which we can do, which we do. We can make sure that we have great jobs in our community, which we work to do. We brought Navy Federal, ST Engineering, Circular Gene, Pegasus Labs. We're working on other big projects too. Good jobs, streamlined processes and permitting processes, and that solves the problem. Like the gentleman on the end, I don't favor the public getting involved and monkeying too much with it. Let the private sector solve the problem. Thank you.
I've been in construction all my life, and the cost of material is skyrocketing. Pensacola used to be the most inexpensive place to live in the early 50s, mid-50s, and it's not that way anywhere or anywhere else, as far as that goes. And I think government and the developers need to come together. Developers, if they want to build 300 or 400 houses, they need to fund the infrastructure, because our infrastructure is not there. We've talked about it for 12, 14 years, and it's, the traffic and the people, they're coming. But, that's a joint venture. The developer needs to be liable for that.
I'm going to stand up this time because I got to stretch. There's an article that came out that said Pensacola in the next 5 years will be one of the top 5 worst cities to buy real estate in. And they named the fact that we don't have enough development and there's not enough job growth. So I think our responsibility as a county is to make it easy for responsible development, laying out the infrastructure that we need, planning for the growth that we inevitably know will come, and we have to make it a business-friendly environment. We can build all the affordable housing that we want to build, but if we don't have the jobs to give to those people, it doesn't make a difference because they can't make their mortgage payment. So we have to make it so we're providing good jobs in our community, and it is the county's responsibility to limit bureaucracy so business can do what they do best, which is provide jobs to our community and do it at high-paying rates. We've got to become competitive on that. I also believe government needs to be small. We have essentially 2 responsibilities: keep us safe and build our infrastructure. We need to focus on building infrastructure and keeping our community safe. We need to make sure that Chip's getting everything that he needs to do that. Congratulations. You're the first person in history in Escambia County to run unopposed. Yeah. So we need to make sure we fund that. That's a big accomplishment. People see that. They want to move here for that. So we've got to stay out of the way for responsible development. We've got to make it easier, and we've got to limit bureaucracy on businesses so they can provide those jobs to our community.
So how can business owners or business community and the county work together on attainable or affordable housing for a workforce? I think you're doing the right thing right now. I mean, the chamber's hosting a candidate forum with the next commissioners of Escambia County, And I think that the relationship has to also come from the other side, and I'll make the commitment to, again, be engaged with the chamber. I served on the policy committee in years past, and I think that being engaged and having our thumb on the pulse of what's going on with our business community is certainly important, and hearing from your employees on what their issues are and what challenges that they're having in their daily lives on trying to afford rent and pay the bills. The state legislature has passed and approved $800 million over the past 2 years for workforce housing in the state, and we're going to need a commissioner that has good relationships in Tallahassee that can help draw down some of those funds to bring back home to Escambia County so that we're able to put that money towards workforce housing and give our employees and people trying to get by and live the American dream an opportunity to own their own house or not worry about how they're going to pay rent next month. We need more inventory. We see it all the time. That's why rent's so high. Look at downtown. There was one apartment complex down here for so long, and they finally have some competition and probably some more coming. And so again, competition is a good thing, and I think that will drive prices down. And again, look at Live Local Act that the city of Pensacola is using with the development that's going in at the Wahoo Stadium, where these developers are able to override height restriction requirements put in place by the county and city, but to do so, they've got to have a percentage of those units that are 80 to 120% AMI, or the average median income of the municipality that they're building in. And to me, that's another step forward that the state did to help out the workforce and being able to attain housing in this state. And I think Escambia County is on the right track, and I promise to be there alongside you as we move forward. Thank you.
Well, affordable housing in Escambia County is a misnomer because it's really, there isn't much. My son is about to be 25 years old, and I don't know if he'll ever be able to buy a house in Pensacola. We want to talk about, workforce housing and low-income housing, normal people housing, first-time home buyer housing. Escambia County is growing like crazy. It is a supply and demand issue. That's the way the market works in the capitalist world, free society. Working with local government, making sure that we have some programs there. Working with the state of Florida, $800,000 certainly isn't going to fund the entire state to find affordable housing. But working with the contractors, making sure that the deals are there to be able to put it in place. It's a supply and demand thing, making sure that if we have a group that wants to come in and work and make sure that the prices are going to be kept stable, that we as a government are able to maneuver some zoning and some land use requirements to be able to open up some more housing. We have to encourage our builders to build and make sure that we're doing it in a common sense, compatible with neighborhoods that they're around, and making sure that we are making that easier. Government should not be put in the way to make building and businesses more difficult to put into place. We need to make sure that we are working together as a community to identify other houses. You have houses that are old and need some refurbishment, and that costs money right there too. So supply and demand and is such a big deal, and I'm worried that we are not going to be able to afford have a house that my son will be able to afford. It's very sad situation.
Jeff, I agree with you. I support concurrency and think it's really important that we bring it back. It's a very complex problem, right? If it wasn't, we would have already solved it and gone on with our life. We need to think about quality of life at every pay scale. I'm a person who believes with any legislation that the county commission does, we need to at least consider quality of life. If it's not across the board fair for everybody that meets their needs, then we failed from the beginning. We need more affordable housing. How many of you have heard that at least 10 times? A lot of you. we need workforce housing. That means we need people to have a place to stay and live their life at their level with an opportunity to rise, whether it's a promotion at their job, whether it's a pay raise, anything. It's very complex. We also need to look at developers who overpromise and underdeliver. I like the idea of what's proposed at Wahoo Stadium, as long as the affordable housing aspect is affordable. Right now, we have families, young families, they've gotten their degree at UWF or elsewhere, and they have their first house. So excited until they get their insurance bill. And then, oh my God, Mom, Dad, how am I going to pay for this? I can't. And they're right. It takes a lot of family sacrifice. We've got to work with our state partners as well to bring down some relief for insurance rates. We've also got to make sure that we have enough housing stock for people to live and build our county in a way that keeps us on the up and up. I think we can do that. And I will, as a county commissioner, make sure.
Kelly, so thank you for your answers. What would you suggest the county do to help new businesses navigate the cumbersome permitting process to get up and running faster? Do I need to repeat the question? Are you clear? Okay.
I think there's already incentives, if I'm not mistaken, in place. And like Navy Federal, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, when they came, they got a tax break for creating jobs. And I think continue doing that. And, you know, we probably need to look for other avenues like, you know, actually, we don't want an automobile factory here. You know, but any kind of factories or something like that that creates jobs and good health insurance that could provide income and health insurance for families throughout. You know, I think that would be excellent there to go in a different avenue because, you know, construction over the years, around Christmas time, everything shut down and you didn't start back to work till January. So, you know, I think some kind of factories that creates a good environment for health insurance and longevity.
So glad you asked this. So I own 3 laundromats. One of them is in Pascagoula, Mississippi. When we bought the laundromat in Pascagoula, Mississippi, I got an email that said, "Welcome to doing business in Mississippi. Here's a link, hyperlinked, with a phone number and an actual human to talk to in every single department that I needed to contact to do business in Pascagoula, Mississippi." The water utility company down to the cable company was listed there. It was so easy. Y'all, we are behind Pascagoula, Mississippi, and that is a real life story. Also a real life story from permitting and zoning. We were delayed, I mentioned earlier, 13 weeks for an interior remodel on a building that I owned. I still had to pay the mortgage. I still had to pay that outrageous insurance price. And the whole time it sat there empty because somebody was on vacation. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I'm so sorry. You have to wait another 2 weeks. We got held up in zoning and planning because they asked us, "Well, are you going to color in the directional arrows in your parking lot?" Yes, great, write that down and you can come back in 2 weeks. Meeting after meeting, we had that held up. We lost out, I think we did the math today, on $150,000 in that 2 months. Somebody in here, I'm sure, does tax accounting and you can see what that would add up for the county. And we're missing that all the time because of the inefficiencies in permitting and planning and zoning. We've got to make it more efficient. We have to make it with less bureaucracy, and we've got to automate our systems. And I am committed to doing that because I have lived that nightmare as a business owner, and I know that we have other people who are giving up on doing business in the county because it's too hard.
I mean, one easy solution is we evaluate the staff that we have and determine just like the city of Pensacola did, do we have the staff in place to deal with the volume of permits we have coming through the door? And I can tell you, talking with developers and business owners, we don't. So we need to take a hard look in the mirror and say, do we have some departments that are heavy on administrative staff and others that are not? Especially when we're front-facing with business owners and the citizens of this county trying to do business. And I think if we looked at what's going on with business permitting and building inspections and permitting for any development, we're going to see that we don't have enough staff on hand to handle the number of permits that are coming through the door. And we need a place for people to go and see somebody and talk to somebody about the issue, somebody that a number they can call, someone's going to pick up and walk them through the process. But again, we got to look in the mirror first and determine, do we actually have a need? My gut feeling is, yes, we do. And then figure out a way to fix the problem.
You know, the permitting issue has been going on in this county for years and years and years. You know, coordinating between different agencies. You know, it is important that when you are building a home or a business or a building, that, you know, that we do take the time to make sure that we're getting it right. We certainly don't want to put something out there that isn't hasn't gone through the permitting process and been approved. Certainly transparency on that is important. Make sure that we are communicating not only with the builder, but also with the homeowner or the business owner. Sometimes the permitting process gets held up because the builder is not the most honest person in the world and is not informing the homeowner or the business owner what is going on. But transparency certainly, and I do see things in Escambia County are getting better. Certainly, the automated process has to happen. We will get into the 21st century eventually, and we will make it better. Giving incentives, you know, for larger projects and making sure that they're getting through the permitting process when they're bringing things to the county, bringing more affordable housing, things like that. And certainly, we will work with them to get that process moving quicker.
The system's broken. As a former owner of Paradise Home and Investment Properties, I know it's a terrible mess. I believe that one of the short-term solutions is we've got to invest in our staff that's working on those permits. We've got to make sure that we have a process in place that's not as cumbersome as it is right now. You know, we like to think that the city of Pensacola and Escambia County has the best of the best employees. And I believe that. But also our employees must keep growing. They must be able to go out and understand what the next cutting edge is to really have excellent abilities for people to get permits just like that. I don't mean be irresponsible or short. I just think that there's a better way, and we haven't found it yet. I love that our mayor travels to DC and elsewhere to see other cities as to how they're doing things. That'd be a great place to start. I think county commissioners could benefit from that too. I think we just need to acknowledge we have a problem, hire the right people to help solve the problem, and then to also make sure that everybody at City Hall and the county are at their best at getting people through the permitting process.
Sorry, I'm not a business owner. Can't speak intelligently on this. I'm a servant by nature. But you heard from a business owner that gave a great idea. That sounds like subject matter expert to me. Bring us up to speed. We have great technology in the world. I mean, up until maybe a year and a half ago, I had to go to my water company to pay the water bill. There's parts of the world you can pay with a thumbprint. Where are we at? Where are we at in society where in Pensacola to where we can't be technologically advanced enough to have this streamlined process? You want to talk about hire new employees? I don't think that's the answer either. I just saw the budget. I just saw how much we're spending, and I compared that to the Gulf Coast budgets and the population. I don't know if spending more money is right, but I do know holding the personnel accountable and getting them the technology for the permits to get it streamlined faster, and then also the training to get them up to speed speed with that new technology and how to handle those permits?
One of the greatest qualifications of being a county commissioner is having owned a business. My wife and I have owned 6 small businesses in California and Florida, and we've owned small properties and investment properties as well. When I owned my business here in Pensacola, before we sold it right after the Great Recession, I had a major issue with a tenant who lost a license. It was very difficult to duplicate or get another one. I had to go see the county. It was before I was ever affiliated with the county. I was very impressed with how quickly they turned it around. Fast forward a few years, I get on the county commission. There were still some antiquities. For example, they were using fax machines to give permits. If you were going to pull a permit to install a dishwasher, if you're a plumber, you had to fax it in, then you had to bring a check. You couldn't pay over the phone. A lot of those things we've eliminated, right? There's a lot of those things that have been eliminated. We hired a brand new guy in the building services department, Tim Tolbert. He's a rock star. But in a big organization like the county with lots of development, there's always going to be issues. And I can tell you, it's never fast enough for the developer, and it's way too fast for the residents. Just drive through District 1. Those guys can put up a subdivision like you can't believe, or an apartment. It'll never be perfect. We have great employees, very dedicated at work, but we're always looking to improve, and we are engaged in continuous improvement. Thank you.
Thank you again, candidates. We're in the home stretch. Here's the last question. We value our military bases and want to ensure that they continue to operate well in the area. What are the most effective improvements around NAS Pensacola and that the county could take on?
Well, certainly making sure that we have great relationships with our local military partners is vital. The military is a third of our economy, a third of our economic growth, but also they bring men and women to our town from all over the world, all over America, that come to our town and love it, and they give back to our town. Making sure that that the military, I have been on the Navy League board for 27 years, and making sure that Pensacola's partnership, and that we are talking to DC with partnership with the military, making sure that they do not forget about us, making sure that that our veterans are taken care of is so important. Our military, we just had the Blue Angel weekend. What a great weekend. And they bring so much economic development to our town. And, I will be fighting for our partnerships with them and making sure that we are always keeping them top of mind, the military. Thank you.
I think we do pretty good. I think it's important for us to know that the military wants us to understand who they are as a people, and they want to be able to integrate into our communities. I think that happens pretty well. I think one of the best assets that we have is, as he said, the Blue Angels. What a great show they put on for us. But it wasn't just a show. It was excellence that they put on. One of my former commanding officers used to be CEO of the Blue Angels. In fact, he holds the current record. He's the only former commanding officer that served the Blue Angels 3 tours. That's because he was a commanding officer that believed in excellence. So if we try to achieve in our community vital ways to incorporate the military in all that we do, I think we'll be successful. All of us have a heart for the military. As a veteran, I go to the Veterans Memorial Park and I almost have tears. Sometimes I have tears. But it's about remembering who has made this community strong. It's about knowing who the military is that's serving here today. And it's about respecting them and welcoming them because they're here and they are in the greatest place in the world, whether it's aviation or whether it's a specialty training. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't a business owner, but this one I got. So let's continue with the encroachment on NAS Pensacola. Don't forget we got Corey Station right here in Escambia County too. So they keep the encroachment away from the bases, let them feel like they still have that domain to themselves. Let's keep the infrastructure, let's keep that going and the flowing of the traffic in and out of the bases, right? Let's keep the infrastructure around. Let's keep the schools going and keep those pumping good, because when you bring your military, you're bringing their children too. They're going to become the coaches in your little leagues. They're going to become the coaches and the mentors in the schools. They're going to be part of your PTAs. You want them involved. They're going to be involved in the community. They are you when they get here. So after their day of work, they go out and become you. Already? So then you're gonna, you wanna, it's time to, it's not just enough to wave a flag and say, hey, I'm patriotic, I like the Blue Angels. Escambia County, it's time to put our muscle where our mouth is. Let Washington know that we are ready for the next drone project. We are ready for the next technology that comes out for the IT department on Corey Station. Pensacola and Escambia County wants it. That's how we support them. That's how you get to keep the veterans here. That's how they become sheriff's department. That's how they become EMS. That's how they become the leaders of this community when they retire and choose to stay here like I did. I could have went anywhere in the world. I chose to stay here because I loved it so much.
The military and their spending represents 52% of our economy, 52%. And it's an incredibly important aspect of our economy. In fact, we would be gone without it. It would be a devastating blow. So I served 15 years on the Military Affairs Committee for the Chamber of Commerce while I was on the school board and in the county commission. I worked 18 years on the base supporting the mission. So it's incredibly important. The most important thing the county is doing is working with the military on their APZ zones and making sure that we set aside enough area, enough land and conservation that we don't interfere with their training. As a matter of fact, just last week, we completed a very important land swap with the Navy. We set 27 acres in conservation. We were able to keep possession of it and utilization of it, but we will never allow any more building on it. In exchange for that, we got 5 acres from the Navy where we're going to build a brand new fire station on Bower Road. We have to make sure that we protect the mission and we enhance the mission. I'm proud to serve on the Northwest Florida Defense Coalition. We went up to D.C. 3 months ago. I met with the admiral who runs all the bases worldwide. We expressed our concerns, and we've just brought back several large appropriations. You'll read about it in the paper. The military is a vitally important part of Pensacola, probably every bit as important as tourism. A lot of people don't want to believe that, but that's the fact. So we have to protect these missions, especially the Blue Angels. I know one of my counterparts made a big mistake and said we should move the practices somewhere else. He had to walk that back instantaneously. We don't want to move anything about the Blue Angels. We want them right there on that base. We want them right here in Pensacola because the military is vital to our community. Thank you.
I'm current major in Auxiliary Air Force, and I have 2 sayings when I get up in the morning. One, I leave the house with the right attitude. And number 2, I never have any difficulties during the day. I have challenges. And I think what we need to do, we need to reach out and be a better person and come together and do more and more for our military, people that served, people that come here.
Thank you. If you're a veteran or active duty, raise your hand, please. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service. 15% of our community is a military veteran. It's a huge amount of our community. When you talk about the budget, it brings in 23,000 jobs, and it accounts for $3.1 billion in our local industry. It's a huge part of who we are as Pensacola. One of the things that we need to make sure we do as county is continue to provide the infrastructure that keeps it safe and efficient. One of the problems that we're having now is, yes, the Blue Angels practice here, and it's absolutely amazing, but you have hundreds of people who can't get their kids to school on those days because the road's blocked. We've got to invest in the infrastructure to expand those roads. Part of the problems that we have now is you have people saying, well, it's not my district, it's not my problem. That's not true because of that $3.1 billion. It is our problem. It is our problem, all of Escambia County, and we've got to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to support our local military, and I think it starts with providing the correct infrastructure so our community can commute properly and that they feel the love.
Could you repeat the question you asked one more time?
Of course. We value our military bases and want to ensure that they continue to operate well in the area. What are the most effective improvements around NAS Pensacola and Corey Station and that the county could take on?
So certainly, I think we all agree on this. We're supportive of our military, and that's what the largest chunk of our federal income tax is going to is to keep us safe here at home. And we want to make sure that we're showing our respect to these military bases. And when we look at the front gate or the surrounding area of where you drive in from the airport, and we have military officers coming to town and they're driving from Pensacola airport over to the front gate of the base, I mean, it's not probably the most beautiful drive in the world. There's an opportunity there on the west side of the bridge, right before you come over the bridge on the front gate, to put a beautiful waterfront park right there on county property. You do have some individuals, some developers that are looking at investing in property right there on the east side of the front bridge to the gate to put in apartment complexes, some commercial and storefronts right there. The issue with development there is it is in a mandatory evacuation zone. So if we have a torrential hurricane, all that's flooded, so you do have to lift it up. But there's a ton of opportunities there too with the Warrington CRA, with providing some grants to these businesses to fix the facades of what their stores look like, and to really give that community the spruce it needs, so that when we have these folks coming into town, that the county's showing its best foot forward and making sure that they've got a good drive into the base, and that it looks like that we're here to support the military, which we all are, and but that we're putting our face forward and doing a good job of keeping it up. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. So thank you again for running. I know it's not easy, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort, and just appreciate you running, standing up for our community, wanting to be a part of it, and for being here tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll have our school board candidates come up now. And I do want to give a couple of shout outs. I was remiss in introducing our moderators tonight. So from Pensacola Young Professionals, we have Annie Gray. And from the Chamber, we have Dr. Lou Sharon Wiley. And we also want to thank Tap the Coast for providing the beverages tonight. So again, start with District 1 on this end and then work your way up to District 5. The format will be the same. We'll start with 2-minute opening statements from each candidate, and then we'll have 4 questions with 1-minute responses for each question. All right. So again, these are candidates for school board running in District 4 and 5. Thank you again for being here this evening. I want to echo again, appreciate you standing up and putting yourself on the ballot. It's not an easy thing to do for a lot of folks, so appreciate the commitment that you're making to our community and for you being here tonight. So again, we'll start off 2-minute opening statements, moving on down the line, and then we'll start with our questions. So Rich, you're up first.
My name is Rich Holznick. I'm a candidate for School Board District 4. I'm doing this for one reason and one reason only. It's for the kids. It's for our children. I believe that children are a heritage from God, and I believe that they need they're the hope and the future of our nation. They need to be protected. I believe I am uniquely qualified for this position on school board. Number one, I'm a 28-year combat veteran. I flew airplanes for the Navy, over 5,000 hours in conflict areas all over the world. Number two, I come from a family of teachers. My mom and dad were public school teachers. My wife was a public school teacher. Both sisters, a brother. Between my immediate family and my in-laws, we're talking 10 public school teachers. I know the challenges. I know the rewards. Number three, I have 4 children that are graduates of the Escambia County public school system, K through 12. And I did it as a widowed single parent. So I know the challenges of single parenthood, and I know how to help kids perform at an elite level in the public school system. I'm talking Hall of Famers, scholar athletes, Fulbright future scholars, all state this and all state that. I know how to do it. And also, I've been as involved as any person, any parent in Escambia County in the last 2 decades. I stand on that without equivocation. Volunteer of the Year, started dads clubs, coached the whole time my kids were growing up. I've been engaged. So time is whittling down. I'll defend our children like I defended the nation. And I'll put military eyes on target on local problems. Like I did while I was in the military, I would be an asset to this school board. I hold a conservative biblical worldview, and I look forward to working in the trenches like I've been doing. In fact, today is a school board night. This is the first night in 18 months that I have not been at a school board meeting. I've been in the trenches. I go to school board meetings, okay? It's another thing that distinguishes me from some of the other candidates here.
Okay. Hey guys, first of all, thanks for having me come out tonight. My name is Earl McCauley, and I'm also running for District 4 School Board. It was fascinating listening to the group before us, the commissioner candidates, talking about some of the things where schools do interlay with some of the things and the issues going on with the county commission. One of the biggest is to keep people here. So if young people, young professionals especially, want to move to Pensacola, we have to have schools that can accommodate them, and we want the schools to be as good as they possibly can be. I'm a 22-year veteran school teacher. I'm the current, or I guess last year's Teacher of the Year at Gulf Breeze High School. I've been a Pensacola News Journal Coach of the Year for boys lacrosse 4 of the last 6 years. I stopped coaching after last year, and it lets me do crazy things like run for school board. I've taught in 4 different states at 6 different high schools. I've taught inner city Memphis. I've taught at Gulf Breeze High School, Chapel Hill High School, and various and other sundry places. I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't work, and I know the issues that are going on. In terms of things to work on, I think we've got 3 major issues going on. One, and this is going to be a national problem, teacher retention. Anything that doesn't talk about teacher retention is going to be remiss. And it's not just pay. There's some things that we can do that don't require redoing the entire budget for the world. One of them is something called a stay interview. We have something else where we can do micro certifications where a teacher can go get, for example, an ESOL certificate and then come in. We can pay them for these things, and it will make them much more happy and more likely to stay. If you don't know this, teachers in Florida, pretty much across the state, get a raise after 11 years. So tier 0 and year 11 get paid the same thing. Then you go up about $200. It's insanity. So the other thing, and the reason I actually got involved with the race, involved the books. I'm a literature teacher. I'm the sponsor of the Literature Club. I teach AP English, and my pass rate's around a 97%. And that's a hard test. Anyway, we have about a 47% reading pass rate in Escambia County, and we talk about closing libraries and getting rid of books. Those things are not congruent. So we have to bring children to books, children to the libraries, and children have to be reading. And sort of like what my friend Rich here said, I've been involved. I also have 4 highly functioning children that are graduates of Escambia County, also student athletes and all of these things. I started a dad's club. Rich and I have quite a few things in common, to be honest. I haven't driven a plane ever, though. I will give you this nugget, because I'm about to run out of time. A child will not know how much you know until they know how much you care. It's a bumper sticker, but it's a pretty daggum good one. And so I will represent the kids with passion, enthusiasm, and integrity as much as I possibly can.
Good evening. My name is Caressa Bargosh, and I am going to be your next school board member of District 4. I'm running for candidate. I'm from Pensacola. I think Walker had mentioned earlier about the Pensacola pilgrimage. Well, I did that, but I first went to schools here, graduated from PJC, formerly PJC, now PSC, on a scholarship, went to UWF, and then went to, I went on a pilgrimage to, my husband joined the Marine Corps, so we went to Memphis, Tennessee. I taught there for a few years, and then I got a graduate degree in counseling services. And then from there, went to Okinawa, Japan, and Virginia, but came back to Pensacola and was able to spend some time in the Escambia County School District. I've also been a PTA mom, a director of a mentoring program, and very much so that I'm also a member of the school board. I was fortunate enough to be selected and chosen by the former governor to replace a sitting board member on an emergency vacancy. So I have the experience, not only the experience of working on some of the same issues that are still going on. We need to make sure that we are doing that. Let me look at my notes, I'm sorry. Discipline. That's one of the major issues. I'm in schools on a daily basis, and I talk to parents and teachers every day about discipline, what we can do. I have a plan to what are some things that we can do to help improve that. The number one concern also is bullying. We know that bullying is a major issue with mental health, and so we want to go ahead and try to focus on that. I have been not only 3 decades of experience as a teacher, but I'm also a mom. My boys are now graduates of Escambia County Schools, and I'm very proud of them. I would like to, just like the governor trusted me and chose me, I'm asking you to trust me and choose me for Escambia County School District Board. Thank you.
My name is Brian Ranelli, and first, of course, I want to thank Pensacola Young Professionals and the Chamber for having us here this evening. Unfortunately, I'm about 3 years from aging out of joining Pensacola Young Professionals, but I am a member of this year's Leadership Pensacola class, and I promise to do you well. Again, my name is Brian Ranelli, and I'm proud to be a lifelong native of Pensacola, Florida.
When I took over R.C. Lipscomb Elementary School, it was an average elementary school. When I left it 10 years later, it was a 5-star A school with the highest test scores in the state and nation. People were coming from all over to see what we were doing. We had 47 business partners in education. We had 23,000 volunteer hours. And when I say a school had come to life, it had come to life. I then retired and became a math coach after I stayed home a year. I was a math coach at Bellevue Elementary, teaching teachers to teach a new math program, which modern math and I, being an old timer, didn't get along too well. But anyway, I went from there. The superintendent asked me would I go out to O.J. Sims Elementary School to see if I could turn that school around. They were a double F, like Warrenton was. The state was about to take it over. And I had 7 months to do it. And I sat down at my desk and I said, we've got to have a plan, and we've got to have a plan that works now. And it's all on me. So I developed that plan, we implemented, and 7 months later, that school was turned from a double F to a C. And we'll repeat that. 7 months. You can count on this hand how many people in the state of Florida have done that. I'm a proven educational leader. I love the Escambia County School District. I want to continue to be an integral part of it. I want to be your board member, and I want to bring that skill set that I have to the board to make the Escambia County School District the best it can be for boys and girls. I have one motto: is this what's best for the boys and girls that's placed in our care? And I'll carry that motto to the board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Luther. I'm running for school board in District 5 because I wanted to offer a biblical worldview. The world is broken, and we're all here because we're looking for solutions to that brokenness. God is a good and gracious God, and He provided for the brokenness of our world in the form of 4 institutions of government. The first is self-government, family government, church government, and finally, civil government. Each individual has the responsibility to read the Word of God and to apply it to his life. The family is the department of welfare, healthcare, and education. The church's mission is to bring the nations into obedience to Christ the King. You can read Psalm 2 to find out a little bit more about that. And then finally, the church's role is to punish the evildoer and to praise those who do what is good. In a body, there are many parts. Each part has its own function, and it's good at the things it's made to do. Hands are very good at picking up tacks. Eyeballs, not so much. Gonna have to trust me on that one. I want to take an example from the Bible. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, he had his men out there, and they had a trowel to rebuild the wall, and they had a sword to protect their work from enemies. Individual self-government, family government, and church government is that trowel which we build God's kingdom. The government is a sword by which we protect our labors from those who hate Christ our King. I'm advocating that we stop using that sword in the place of a trowel. If the trowel's broken, let's fix it. The answer is Christ and his gospel. Let's use the sword for the defense, and instead of trying to use the sword to slap mortar and lay bricks, let's go back to God's word, fix that trowel, and we'll be a whole lot better off than we have been trying to fix everything with a sword.
I'm Jim Taylor. I'm running for school board in District 5. I think if you probably looked up in the dictionary a picture of an old coach, you'd probably see my picture there. Well, I'm the one up here who's taught everything from theater arts to advanced science. I was a state master teacher. I have 5 current teaching certifications. I have been all over this county with the last several years of my career as a school social worker for the north end of the county. I made sure children had food, clothing, and shelter. I worked a lot with Clarissa with the NAS Christmas party to make sure children had gifts. I worked with the Commissioner Bergosh when he was on the school board to make sure things were done. I didn't just start attending school board meetings because I'm running for the school board. I went to them while I was an employee and offered ideas, find out what was going on, see what we can make it better. I also worked with Judge Bergosh when he was on the board, and he and I came up with some pretty good plans. And I'll have to tell you, one time I was in a pickle because I had the school board wanting me to give a presentation and the superintendent not wanting me to give a presentation. So since I was an employee, I had to go sit down. But we're not going to quit. We're going to make sure this is the best school system in the state. Now, recently got recognized by Don Gates at the Republican Executive Committee meeting. And the reason he recognized me there was when he was a board member for Okaloosa County and then he ran for superintendent, I got to hang around with him. I got to talk to him. I got to pick his brain. And I saw what he did for Okaloosa County. He turned it in from a mediocre school system, which is what we have now at best. When you're 57 out of 67, that's not good. That wouldn't have worked when I was coaching. So I listened to what he said. I watched what he did. And we can do some of those same things in Escambia County school system. We don't have to be in the bottom 10. We're going to be in the top 10. And you're not going to do that by doing the same things you've always done. If you keep putting the same type middle management in there, the same type people who stuck in the mud, do the same thing. You know, one of the definitions of stupid is if you do the same thing over and over and expect different results. You're not going to get different results. You're going to get the same mediocrity that you got. Now, I got 3 little grandbabies. I know some of y'all have grandchildren, but I'm the only one got grandbabies, okay? And they mean the world to me. And I have led this charge against the dirty books. I have spoken out repeatedly against them. I've even been recognized by the county commission on numerous occasions for my work with young people and coaching teams outside the school system as well as teams in the school system. We have got to have somebody that not only understands the academics and the personnel aspects of it, but the extracurricular aspects. There is nobody in here in the running for District 5 that has the extracurricular experience that I have. I've won championships in 4 different sports at 2 different levels. And I promise you, I will not be a desk jockey. All my career, I've been out in the field, hands-on. And I promise you, I'll continue to do that in District 5 as your school board member. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidates. Your first question. What do you see as the greatest recent school district success, and how can we replicate that success? Tom is going to go first.
Thank you for that question. In the Escambia County School District, we have many challenges, but we also have a lot of things that we're doing right. And that success, one of them is that we have tremendous employees who are able to adapt and do the things that they need to do to adapt to different situations with children. We have another big success in our school district. A lot of people don't know that it's kind of a hidden success. Workforce education, and that's part of my background. I graduated from college with a degree in what we called vocational education back then, but it's workforce education now. My son happens to be the director of workforce education for the school district, and he's definitely not a desk jockey. You know, I can tell you that. And neither are other hardworking administrators in this district. They're not desk jockeys either. But workforce education is a bright, shining spot in our district because we have more certifications for employment. They call them CERTs for short. We have more workforce certifications than districts like Pinellas, Orange County, Duval, and others. That means students have taken tests and gone through programs where they can start to work immediately. That's a shining star for Escambia County. Another thing that we have some of the best trained principals and teachers out there. My daughter happens to be one of those at Molina Park. She went from teaching second grade to an ESE position in which she loves. And there's a real shortage for ESE teachers now. We also are making progress on test scores now. It's like climbing a ladder, ladies and gentlemen. You do a few steps at a time. You can't take a child that is 2 grade levels behind to get them 2 grade levels in a year. What we're doing is we're making progressive progress. Are we close to the bottom? Yes, we are. But we're making progress in those areas. And thank you for that question.
I'm thankful that the public schools have something of a sports program. It needs a lot of work. Believe it or not, little boys were not created to sit at desks all day. They were made to run around, chase balls, beat each other up, and then apologize afterwards. Any success that we contribute to the public schools comes at the expense of tax dollars. I mean, for Pete's sake, we could take the kids on a field trip to the moon. But all of us citizens would be in really big trouble. Property taxes would go through the roof. You can build with a sword. The best way to do it is take your sword, point it at your neighbor, and say, use your trowel and build for me. That's what the public school does when it provides, amazing opportunities. It's taking other people's stuff without their consent and giving and say, aren't I such a nice person? Well, no, if you took that from someone else, you're not.
Well, we have some successes in Escambia County, and the best one we picked lately was Keith Leonard to be your school superintendent. He's local, he knows the people here, he knows our value system, and the first game that young man ever coached, he coached standing right beside me. So I'm telling you, we can do a lot of good. I told you my older brother was a retired principal, my younger brother's a retired teacher, my sister's a retired bookkeeper. But I don't have any relatives in the school system, so you don't have to worry about nepotism with me. You're going to make sure that you get somebody that makes sure everyone is doing their job. And if everything was wonderful in the Escambia County school system, we wouldn't be 57th in the state. It's going to take new ideas. It's going to take energy. It's going to take enthusiasm. It's going to take doing things the right way. And I'm going to tell you, the governor was here recently and had a news conference at Pensacola State College for workforce. Do you know in District 5 who was the candidate invited by the governor to that? Me. When the governor came here and did his bill signing on the dirty books, do you know who out of District 5 was invited there? Me. I'm going to continue to do that. And they know my efforts. They know how hard I've worked within the school system and outside. I still do numerous food drives. I'm doing one in Century this weekend. I've done several with Michelle Saltzman and the sheriff and a number of people. people who are supporting my candidacy come out and help with those food drives. I have not seen any other member running for District 5 school board seat at any of those functions. I'm going to continue to make sure these kids have food, clothing, shelter, and shoes. A child cannot learn if he's afraid. He cannot learn if he's hungry. And he cannot learn if we don't get him there to school. So with your help, we're going to make some big changes, and the Escambia County school system is going to be in the top 10, not the bottom 10.
I'd have to agree with one of the best victories we had recently with the appointment of Keith Leonard. We had someone else. We had Tim Smith, and he did not think like we did. The very first school board meeting I went to, I tried to read from one of the books, but I wasn't allowed to. It would have been a violation of FCC regulations because it was live streamed. Senator Kennedy from Louisiana later read from the same book. Some books have no redeeming value. Some books are age inappropriate. Some books are developmentally inappropriate. What we had was a total 180 disconnect between our former superintendent, Tim Smith, and the media specialist, and the book review committee, because every book was approved for retention. But when it was examined by the school board, there was a 5-0 vote to remove every single one of those books. And that needed to be fixed, and it was fixed when the school board, in a very amazing way, got rid of Tim Smith and appointed Keith Leonard.
Okay. So I think to get back on success, in a school system, defining success is not all that easy. Take my class, for example, 97% pass rate in an AP exam. Guess what? I didn't take it. So success is measured one student at a time, one person at a time, one class at a time, perhaps one test or one game at a time, but it's about the individual doing well. So you could have a class of 25 students. If 23 of them fail, 2 of them might have just enjoyed success. So we have to look at how we're valuing success and what that means. Some students, hey man, we just made a C on that test and we're high-fiving and dancing in the streets. Others, they make a B- and they're out there in tears. So success is exceedingly hard to define. In terms of county-wide stuff, we have amazing students. And we always have had amazing students. If you look at some of the students in the IB programs, we're sending students to every Ivy League college, the service academies and whatnot. The academies, somebody else mentioned this a few minutes ago, but each of these schools has some amazing academies. We're getting people ready for jobs. West Florida High School has their different academies with the line workers, and they're coming out with certifications, certs, if you will. We've got the George Stone Center. We've got the Navigator program, which isn't a student thing, but it is a great program, and I think it will help bring success as we individualize instruction for each of these kids. So again, kids want to feel success, they want to be successful, and the way to do it, one of the best ways to do it, is to have success in doing difficult things. It's not good enough just to show up, we have to show up and do better. And as has been mentioned before, being 57 out of 67 is not doing better. We have to enjoy success, one student at a time, one block at a time, and moving it forward. Thanks.
Thank you for that question. Escambia County School District, we have a lot of successes, and we want to highlight those. One success was mentioned earlier many times, the career academies, or by workforce education. They're small learning communities where children get the opportunity to go out and explore their careers, explore to see if this is something they want to focus their education on. This gives our families a great choice in Escambia County. You know, if they are interested in a certain career academy that's not offered at their home school, they can apply for a transfer to another school that offers that. So what a great opportunity for families to feel confident, to feel comfortable, and feel like they are part of Escambia County School District.
First, I agree that success looks very different for every student, and students have different needs. Of course, that's That's evident. There are a lot of successes, career academies, Weiss Elementary. Our mayor was at my Rotary 2 weeks ago talking about Weiss Elementary, a community partnership school. I'll always advocate for career partnership schools and the value that those bring to our children. And I hate to be too critical, because when you're too critical, it's kind of like calling your friend's girlfriend ugly or something of that sort. So hate to do that. Look at the data. Our math and reading scores for elementary school are below the state average and well below our neighboring counties. Look at a couple key indicators, as Janet Pilcher with Studer Education says. Measure a couple key data points that are few and mighty as a way to get better over time. And then I mentioned accountability earlier. What does that look like? It doesn't just happen overnight. We don't go from 57 to top 10 overnight. Let's look to the best performing counties on a couple key indicators as a way to move forward. It's what you would do in business. It's what you would do to hold anything accountable. I think that's the way forward. But again, to highlight, never be too critical, because there are always great things to look at. Community partnership schools, Weiss Academy, and I'll name one more, a nonprofit that I'm board of, Parent University. I'm board chair, and I'm so proud of the work that they do for parents, and that trickles down to students in our area.
Hey, thank you all. Just a moment, I don't have my glasses on. How can the school district work with the Escambia Children's Trust to improve student success?
All right. So the Children's Trust is somewhat complicated, at least in my mind, because it's not directly funded through the school board, but we have two board positions on it, one of whom is the superintendent, and the other one, at least right now, is Mr. David Williams. But it's had some issues, and I don't think those have been exactly undercover. As of about February, Lindsay Cannon is now in charge of it, and I feel like it's going in the right direction. And from everyone I've talked to, it seems to be turned in a new direction. The fact that it's associated with a sales tax, it'd also be, I think, especially in this one, a good idea to get with the county commission, as some of the things that the commission used to fund when the trust was begun is no longer being funded, so all of this gets put in together. But I do feel like we're going in the right direction. And so in order to, I guess, get the trust going even more forward, we need to support programs that are working, revitalize the programs that are not, be fiscally responsible with how it's being spent. And we do that from the two seats that we have on the board through the school board, not as a school board, I guess, directive itself, because we don't have that power. It's not, I guess, owned by the school board, if you will. So we can't use it for teacher raises. We can't use it to go fund somebody's football team. We go through their board. So I guess that's how I would look at that one. But we do need to work in conjunction with them on making sure that programs to help children are used appropriately and helping the most children possible.
The Children's Trust, great organization. It was a referendum that was supported by our community. So therefore, we have community buy-in. They did a needs assessment, and they're still continuing to do needs assessments to find out what are some resources in town that can fit those needs. So we have children that are coming in that need childcare. That's one of the major issues. Childcare, education, very close to their heart. So we want to help support them. Now, currently we do have 2 positions on the board for the school board that attends. So it's, it's a great partnership, and we want to continue with that.
I think there's a lot of reason to have hope in the direction of Children's Trust. It's so important to our community. It's so vital. I think we should have hope that Lindsay Cannon's doing a great job. I think the school board having 2 seats on that body is paramount. I would bring in the county commission more. I've attended those meetings regularly. And one thing that I haven't seen that I would like to see is more business input. So you have so many great stakeholders throughout the community, whether it be our 3 hospitals, our great healthcare systems, Florida Power and Light. I'm a big advocate of bringing in business to provide that oversight at every turn, to provide more stakeholders a microphone to be able to come in and provide input. But again, I do believe that there's reason to have hope. I have faith in Lindsay Cannon, and having 2 board members on that at any given time is always a positive. So I think good things are happening, better things can happen, but more oversight's always a great thing. Good question.
Escambia County Trust is meeting a great need in our community, and it is headed in the right direction now. They'd had some difficulties to begin with, but they're moving along. Here's what I would like to see them concentrate a little bit more on, maybe as a challenge to them. I know we have 2 members, the superintendent and Mr. Williams, on the board, but what I would like to see is them to pay more attention to literacy issues. Literacy issues are so important. If you let a child get to the 3rd grade and they're behind, say they're at the 1st and 2nd grade level, the percentage of losing them and them not graduating from high school is so high. So we've got a large pot of money here. And that large pot of money, and I'm sure the superintendent is doing this, and Mr. Williams is pointing out that anything that they do where they put that money that pertains to early childhood literacy would be a great big plus. Because we have so many children who start school who aren't ready. And so if we can target some of those children and get them to a point where they're better, then we spend a much greater chance of them succeeding rather than them not succeeding when they get to pre-K and kindergarten. Whether it's a program that encourages pre-K education, whether it's a program through a daycare center, or it's through a project and grant, however it is, encouraging that early literacy is very important. Thank you.
Escambia Children's Trust is a Marxist LGBTQ++++ affirming institution funded by theft, and I don't believe that the public schools should be partnering with them. They are enemies of Christ, which you can tell by their affirmation of the perversion of marriage. God gave us marriage as a picture of Christ's relationship with his church. That's why it's between one man and one woman, and when you blur those lines, you're messing with God's wedding picture, and that is a very serious thing, and I do not want to partner with enemies of Christ.
Something just struck me. Why are we letting kids get to the 3rd grade and can't read? Why are we allowing that to happen in our school system? They deserve better than that. We can do better. Now, the Children's Trust also has a county commissioner, Lumen May, and David Williams, and Keith Leonard. You know my relationship with Keith Leonard. Lumen May and I share that we both coached teams for the Salvation Army. I won the first national championship 14 and under in basketball for the Salvation Army. Lumen May won the 2nd. He and I are good personal friends. David Williams and I coached with each other at Pensacola High and coached against each other in basketball. I knew David's father, Hollis Williams. Now, we can make a difference with the Children's Trust Fund, but they have wasted some money, people, and they have wasted a lot of money, and not a whole lot of good gets done. I'm telling you what we need to do before we give any organization any money. Say, identify who you're going to help with this money. Tell us what your goals are, and tell us what's going to happen if you don't accomplish those goals. I'm all for the Children's Trust Fund. I'm all for the children. But I want to know, what are you going to do with that money? Where's that money going to go? And what's going to happen to you if you don't accomplish these things and we don't see some real success? I want to make sure you don't get that money again, and we're going to funnel that money where it does the most good for the most kids and for this community.
There's some things that money can't fix. And we've got a crumbling foundation. We talk about 57 to 67 counties. When my kids started school, all enrolled in Scenic Heights Elementary at the same time, Escambia County School District was number 5 in the state. So when my kids started, they were number 5 in the state. And now, when they finished, they're 57. That is, in aviation terms, an inverted flat spin, okay? And now, we can throw money at stuff, but we have a bigger problem, and it's actually a spiritual problem. The breakdown of the family, the revision of the family. When the foundation is destroyed, we're told, what can the righteous do? We need to rebuild the foundation. Now, what you measure, you can improve, and I'm all for that. And these corridors of concern and overlaid with money trying to target these areas, that's a good thing. But money won't fix everything, and you're never going to get if you have a spiritual problem, it's not going to be fixed by money.
Thank you, candidates. How can the school district effectively partner with the business community to improve student quality of life and educational success?
To me, that's very simple. We've got to go back to internships, apprenticeships. We got to bring back SHOP all the way to the middle school. We got to bring back, I know it's called life skills now, but it was home ec. We've got to prepare these children, those that are not going to go to college, to have a job skill, to have a trade. And we do that with our partners in business, and we get them to start in the middle school, coming to those middle school shop teachers, hopefully, and saying, look, these are the skills we're going to need these people to have. So we want to help you incorporate them into your curriculum. Then when they get to high school, those businesses, particularly that surround the schools, we're going to go to those people and say, here's what we're going to produce. We want to know, how will this child be best suited to go right to work for your company? And if you take those children and you put them into internships and apprenticeships, into skills that they like and skills that they love, we can break that cycle of poverty, and then businesses get a much better worker, the community gets a much better citizen, and everybody comes out a winner. And we can't just do it trying to say we're going to shove every kid into college or we're going to shove every kid into robotics. When they took SHOP out of the middle schools and a lot of the high schools, they told us they did that so they can go into robotics. There's about one place in Escambia County you can get a job in robotics. But we need plumbers, pipe fitters, carpenters, bricklayers, auto mechanics, auto body repair, and a number of other ones. And we've got to expand, not just have it at a couple of centers. You know what? In this county, you should be able to go to your closest school and get every service you need if you have children in school. It's not fair for the people in the far north end of the county have to come all the way down here to the Hall Center to get something. It's not fair that you have to run all over the county to get something. Every service that you need for your children should be provided at each and every school. And if it's not, it's a shame, and it's on us to change it. I will change it, and I appreciate you.
We have some amazing resources here in Pensacola. We have the largest population of military veterans in the country here, per capita. Military people are given to volunteering, and so is the corporate world. We like to do that, and we need to see, for example, I'm a retired military guy. I was in there teaching math. That's something I enjoy. Math superstars. I think I've probably taught 250 classes. But bring these military guys in. We're bringing them into the Dream Center. You make a call to the Marine barracks, and they'll send 25 guys out right away. And we have guys with very strong skill sets, STEM skill sets, and we need to bring them in. We need to invite them in. We're not doing it enough. We need to do the same with businesses. And we have some businesses that are good at it. Navy Federal's doing it. And we have others. But I agree 100%, Jim Taylor. We need to go back to this voc ed stuff because not every kid's going to college, but they need to be prepared for life after high school. And we need to involve the businesses, and we need to be aggressive about it.
All right, I agree. I agree, kind of. We do have to get more volunteers in the schools, and I do think that the military base, I think that the local businesses can absolutely share their expertise, and they would absolutely welcome that. Building things like voc ed centers and things like that is going to be prohibitively expensive, but I'm not saying we can't do it. Where there's a will, there is a way. And maybe that would be another partnership. One of the most important predictors of success is your ability to learn. Can you learn to learn? So for example, the iPad was invented in 2010. Most of the jobs that existed before the iPhone and the iPad no longer actually exist. They've all changed. So we have to teach students how to learn. How's the best way to do that? Through relationship with people who are already doing it. They will, again, to some of these other points, become absolutely engaged when they have one-on-one attention with hands-on tactile activities, whether that's building robotics, whether that's putting together a cabinet, whether that's learning how to do plumbing. Last time I checked, plumbers do a lot better than English teachers in terms of salary. So there's absolutely no shame in any of this. Learning how to work hard, I mean, grit, determination, effort, those things still matter. They matter on the sports fields, they matter in the classroom, they matter in the real world, and they matter in relationships. I mean, who do you want to be on your team as a husband, wife, father, daughter, what have you? You want somebody that's going to absolutely work through things and never, ever give up. And so, again, we don't give up on the kids. They won't give up on their futures. And I think we could do something as simple as designing an app to even pair people in the business and the professional community. Say, hey, I want to do this. Okay, let's find somebody we can match you with. I don't think it would take too much technology to figure that out, and we could make it happen. But partnership, absolutely vital to the community and to the kids.
I agree. Partnerships are a great asset to our families. I'm currently at the school liaison for NAS, and one of my goals is to strengthen our partnership, our PIE program, Partnership in Education, where I marry up commands with a particular school. What a great opportunity that is. So then they have direct communication. What are your needs? And they can assist with whatever their needs are, whether it be field day, whether it be teaching a STEM class, or whether it be working with families and STEM programs like that. So great question. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, partners are very important.
I want to bring up a topic that hasn't been discussed to this point tonight, and that's the emergence of vouchers. There's a mass exodus of kids going from public schools to other schools because of vouchers. And my goal is that when given a choice, and parents should always have choice, that we move schools in the right direction to where they choose a public school in Escambia County. Is there great things going on in Escambia County when it comes to these type of things, especially with the business community? Yes. Look at what IHMC is doing with resilience, human performance. And I agree that the military is renowned in all of the things that they can and should do, can and are doing for our school system. But again, I'll echo something I said earlier this evening. Look to other parts of the state for best practices, especially when it comes to engaging with the business community. The Florida Chamber of Commerce has an alliance for early learning. Junior Achievement of South Florida aims to tackle achievement gaps for financial literacy. Those are just two examples. So I would say, let's identify the areas where we really need to grow. Of course, those are areas where ideally students will have the best opportunities, i.e. jobs. So if we can tackle reading in elementary school, if we can tackle financial literacy, and if we can tackle or offer expertise in the trades, those are going to put students in a really good position moving forward. In case this is the last question, I do, of course, want to thank Dr. Wiley for hosting and the two ladies up front for moderating this evening. It's been a wonderful opportunity to speak with you. Thank you.
We have talked this evening about how we can make our school system the best, how we can make it in the top 5 again. And when you talk about partners in education, that's one of the key elements of it right there. You have to have community involvement. Let me tell you how you get community involvement. Let me tell you how I got 47 partners at R.C. Lipscomb Elementary School. We sat down one afternoon, the staff, and we did a needs assessment. What are the things we need in each of these areas to move boys and girls forward? When we got through with that needs assessment, we developed teams to go out into the community and say, hey, Kiwanis Club, we understand you have a terrific kids program that attacks discipline up front instead of behind. Most people don't know this. 25% of our students in Escambia County have discipline referrals. It's a huge problem. And they attack it from the tail end of it instead of the front end. We attacked it at R.C. Lipscomb from the front end. We got a program in place that students could earn good behavior things and be rewarded for it through an assembly every month. And our discipline problems went way down like this. The way you get the community involved is you let them know you have a need, and they will come. They will come. Escambia Westgate Center. We wanted a boardwalk to go out into the woods between the two schools. We had 15 or 20 community partners come in, including the Navy, the military, and I can't tell you how many Saturdays I held on to an auger out there and needed all of the Bengay I could put on these shoulders afterwards. Because, you know what? I'm not going to go out there and just stand there. I'm going to be an active part of whatever they're doing there. So we built this boardwalk with ramps so that special need kids could go out and experience nature and so forth. You build from the community. You let them know what you need in education. Then from that needs assessment, you put your teams out there. And I have done this over and over again, and that's one of the reasons the schools where I've been have been very successful. I want to bring that same attitude, that same expertise to the Escambia County School Board. Most people don't realize this. When things are really get done is at that workshop. I was at the workshop last week. You can sit there and read the mood because the Sunshine Law says that board members can't talk to each other about any issue that might come before them. You know, you have to do it in the sunshine. So they advertise a board meeting where they go over the board workshop, where they go over all the agenda and all the items, and people go to the regular board meeting when they vote on it. But when all that discussion is taking place, as a board member, this is the place to bring up community partnerships and things like this, put it on the agenda, and make sure that people understand how you get it. Principals understand how you get community partners. And once you understand that and get it going, we've gotten away from that, you know? And we've also gotten away from some of the other things like in workforce education. But the needs assessment, I know my time's up. Can you tell I get excited about education? I'm going to bring that excitement to the Escambia County School Board. You wait and see. Thank you.
If we can partner with local businesses and set up apprenticeships, that would be awesome. Get the kids out in the real world, you know, instead of being raised at a desk and being made to memorize curriculum and regurgitate it for a test and never use most of that later on. Teach them real life skills. Have them mentored by godly men and women who aren't threatened with termination of their job if they praise the Lord Jesus Christ for his goodness. That would be really awesome. Another way we could partner with local businesses is by raising boys and girls who fear the Lord, who know they're created in God's image, and understand the purpose of man to know God and make him known, or as it says in Genesis, be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth. God gave Adam a job to tend the garden and to keep it. He's supposed to make sure everything grew well and maybe build a fence to keep the Apatosaurus out of the garden. And that's what we need to raise our kids to do. Build God's kingdom and guard it from the evil one. And he has many servants and many tricks. And we need to go back to the Word of God and raise our kids accordingly.
Okay, so this is our last question. How do we address the corridors of concern highlighted by the superintendent?
Thank you, Dr. Wiley. One concern that I would like to bring up is area of discipline. I mentioned earlier, big issue. We have a discipline. I spoke to a teacher the other day about she's teaching a class. She has a child come up to her with a kazoo and play constantly. So that disrupts the education process. That child needs to be removed to a different location so then that child can learn the proper behavior. So the other kids can learn and focus on what they're needing to learn. Those are very big issues. Bullying is another issue I mentioned earlier. We have a lot, mental health crisis. The suicide rates are going up. So we want to make sure that we have all the resources to help our children that are experiencing any mental health issues that we can address.
I mentioned it earlier when I said our local law enforcement is critical when it comes to our kids. Our sheriff has left this evening, but we have the very best sheriff in the state. And I wholeheartedly believe that when we address safety, we need a law enforcement personnel in every single school in Escambia County. And that includes elementary, it includes middle and high school. I love it to think about when elementary school students get to know their resource officers, get to know law enforcement personnel. That kind of engagement, that kind of relationship building causes so many positive ripple effects that directly affect safety in our schools. So again, law enforcement in every school, and let's partner with law enforcement and the military to have relationships in our schools where appropriate.
Make no mistake about it, we have some challenges in our school district, but I want to say something right up front. I noticed something that happened in our school district that I never thought would happen. When we hired a superintendent from out of state, from out of our county in a way, and he came in here and he started doing a lot of policies that upset the entire system. And it took 3 years for people to realize that and for the board to get rid of him. And then we got Keith Leonard. Keith Leonard was one of my students. He sat in my 7th grade classroom. I taught him, and he's a dear friend of mine. And I told my fellow colleagues that it would take 2 to 3 months for him to settle the Escambia School District down. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how long it took? 2 weeks. And you know why? Because they trusted him, because he was one of the people here in Escambia County. Trust is important. The community has to trust the school district. Now to those areas of concerns. You know, I'm one of those all over District 5. I've been walking Sentry, doing things all over our county up here. And the one thing I hear is they want another shot at an elected superintendent. And when I'm on the board, I'm going to give it that. I'm going to make the motion to put that on the agenda at the appropriate time to have another vote on that. That's one issue that's very strong. All right, these books that Mr. Taylor talks about all the time. All right. There was 1,071 of them have already been reviewed by the board, by the superintendent and others. There's 176 left to be reviewed, and there's 7 that's under federal lawsuit right now, which I can't say anything about that, you know. But I can tell you what Tom Harrell believes in that. There's no place in our schools for these books. You know, there's no place. And if I'm on the board, when they come before me, if they're inappropriate, if they are not grade level appropriate, if they have sexual connotations or anything like that, here's a vote that's saying they got to go, okay? They got to go, because we should be concentrating on reading, writing, arithmetic, and helping kids get out and get jobs through the workforce education program. We have 3 other things that are challenges in our school district. Number 1 is attendance. It's part of our strategic plan. We're running 90% since the pandemic, and we can't seem to get off of that. I have some ideas as a board member to get us off of that. We should be running 97%. If kids aren't here, they can't learn, okay? It's that simple. We've got to get up that other 7%. Discipline is a huge concern. Bullying, as Carissa talks about. I've got some ideas in that area that I can't expel right now. And I've got some ideas about discipline, about covering the discipline up front before they get the referral. 25% of our students getting a referral every year is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. It's just unacceptable. And closing that academic gap, that's the next one. That's part of our strategic plan. Our kids are behind, and it's because of the pandemic, and we're losing our workforce in the interim. Closing that academic gap is so important, and I have the experience, the expertise, and the skill set on that board to make a difference in that area because I've done it at the high-performing end, and I've done it at those schools that needed help that had an F. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be your board member, and I'm going to bring a skill set to that board that will make a difference and will help us put us in the top 5. Thank you.
Back in the 1600s, Christianity was very prevalent. We were a very blessed nation. If you look at some of the laws from the 1600s from certain jurisdictions, they'll give the law, for instance, thou shalt not steal, and then give a Bible reference. It's that foundation that made America great. It's that foundation that produced men who are willing to lay down their lives for liberty. But we've despised those foundations. Our founding father, John Adams, said that the Constitution was not meant to govern, was only meant to govern a religious and moral people. We've thrown off religion, and morals are following suit. Moral capital only stays around for so long after you get rid of the income, the religion that sustains it. And then you get, quote unquote, corridors of concern. I believe it used to be called pockets of poverty, which in America, poverty isn't really a thing. We all have food and water and clothing and shelter, and therewith we should be content. Physical poverty isn't really a thing, but spiritual poverty is very prevalent. In America, we are a multicultural nation, and different cultures are further along in the degeneration that follows the rejection of Christ's gospel. And so the solution to address those problems is Jesus Christ on the cross, bearing the sins of the world, and his glorious mission and new birth for every one of his followers.
God is great. God is good all the time. But we got some problems that we're going to have to sell. We're going to have to deal with them. When we got asked earlier this evening what was one of the most positive things that happened in the Escambia County school system, I was the first person that got up here and say the appointment of Keith Leonard as superintendent. Now, Keith's not perfect, and I think the world of it. But if I see some discrepancies or problems along the way, I'm going to discuss it with them. Now, these people say they got some solutions to discipline problems, but they don't give you any of them. Let me tell you some solutions to discipline problems. One is we've got what's called in-school suspension, where we send a bunch of kids that have created an infraction into a room, and they have study hall all day. But they ride the bus with the same kids they hit in the head, the same kids they took their lunch money, the same girls that they accosted on the way to the bathroom, and they run into those same kids in the hallway. That will not happen once I get there. Once I get there, you commit one violent infraction. You don't go to school with the regular kids. You're going to go to school from 4 p.m. until 9 o'clock at night, 5 days a week and all day on Saturday. And those in-school suspension teachers are going to actually have to teach them. And that way, a child who makes one mistake can earn their way back. But they do it after spending 9 weeks having to go to school at night, and they don't get bus service. What a lot of people don't realize, riding a school bus is a privilege. We don't have to let you ride the school bus. So I don't want the same kid that stabbed a child, the same kid that hit a child in the head, took a child's lunch money, groped a young lady, riding a school bus with her to school. I don't want him passing her in the hall. I don't want him having any contact with them until they earn their way back. And I'm telling you, these old solutions, these old ways of doing things, the ways you got hoodwinked and bamboozled and tricked into looking at these things changed, let me tell you how they did some of it. They would do what we call diluting the sample. If you had a failing school, you just took a bunch of those kids and shipped them over to the A schools. You know what? That brought the A school maybe down to a C, but it brought the F school maybe up to a D. But you got hoodwinked on it. Also, if they got below a certain number of these poor performing kids, and school board members knew some of this really happened, their scores didn't count against that school's score. If they're below a certain number, they didn't count. So we weren't really doing anything better, but we manipulated the system. We diluted the sample. I'm telling you, I'm not going to let you be fooled. I'm not going to let you be hoodwinked. I'm going to tell it like it is because I was on the inside fighting against this. I'm going to continue to fight it, and I'm not going to let people get away telling you how great the school system is. And when principals give 80% of their staff highly effective ratings and the school fails or gets a D, you tell me where that makes any sense. We have got to make some changes. We're going to make some changes, and we're going to do it with the one idea like the military uses: failure's not going to be an option. It's going to have to get done. Your taxes pay for it. Your children are receiving that education, and I want them to have the very best.
Okay. Corridors of concern. 330 zones. This is identifying where the kids are. And then you overlay that with the problems, where the kids are struggling, where there's poverty. The problem is, that's great. You identify where the problem is. Now, how do you deal with the problem? How do you deal with it? I dare say that some of these problems are terminal. Some of them are terminal because of the foundation, the collapse of the family, fatherlessness, etc. Okay. So I'm going to go back to how do we fix things in general? Coming from a military background again, the commanding officer has a vision, and he shares that vision, and everyone falls in behind him. And we don't have a problem with people that have ideological differences with the commander. They get rid of them. But in the private sector and in education, that's not the case. So you can have a superintendent wanting to do one thing, and he can have people in his administration pulling in the opposite direction. So this is what has to happen. The people select the school board, hold them accountable. The school board, right now, selects the superintendent, hold them accountable. The superintendent appoints principals and administrators, hold them accountable. If there's lack of discipline, if there's problems, you address it. The superintendent to the principal. Put them on notice. If they can't fix it, find somebody that can. Okay? It's all about accountability, and it's in the Navy, this is simple. Command and authority and accountability is absolute. We fire about 100 COs, commanding officers, every year because for whatever reason, they're not getting the job done. We need to bring that kind of attitude to the school district. We can fix these problems. We can fix these problems. We got to work creatively together to do it.
All right, it looks like I get to close out the night. Yeah, I get to close out the night. So you're stuck with my dad jokes. All right, so quarters of concern. I'm going to quote Joseph Heller from Catch-22. He says, Americans have a great history of throwing money at a problem and doing absolutely nothing to fix it. So what we have is a disparity, or we'll call it an equity issue with some of our schools, some of our students not performing up to grade level. For example, Global has a 17% pass rate with their third grade reading scores versus, let's go, Pensacola Beach Elementary School with an 82% pass rate, same age kids. So how do we, to Rich's point, how do we go about addressing this? And I'm much more of a carrot than a stick kind of guy. I find that you get more with honey than with vinegar. So I'm most likely not going to put them on Saturday school and things of that nature. My thought would be that we pair them with mentors, and we have the principals, again, as Rich mentioned, have the principals take the leadership on this and say, hey, these kids need help. And if it's the whole daggum school, then it's the whole daggum school. But the greatest predictor of future prison populations is second grade reading scores. It's also the greatest predictor of future success. I don't think any second or third grader is terminal. I think there's hope for all children. So we pair them if that's community involvement. I've got this other idea where we use things like National Honor Society students that we've already got, sports teams, student governments, where we get high-functioning high school juniors and seniors, pair them to mentor with second and third graders, whether that's reading to them at lunch. There's some logistics to work out, but I do think there's some value in this program. And most of the schools have a high school probably within walking distance or certainly a bicycling distance type thing. But we get these kids support, we teach them that they are loved, that they are cared for, that they have a place, and then, and only then, will they be willing to do the work that's required. Attendance issues would improve, all of these things improve when you are cared for and you feel respected, and most importantly, that you feel safe, whether that's physically, emotionally, or some combination of the above, realizing that school is the safest place that some of these kids have all day, every day. I've taught in inner city Memphis, and I can tell you that 90% of my students were absolutely fantastic. And I still have relationships with some of them, and it's amazing. And the same thing can happen here in Pensacola and in the north part of the county. But we've got to show these kids that we love them and we respect them, and then they can perform. Anything else is not going to be sufficient. And I guess since I'm closing this out, thank you everybody for hosting us, and y'all have a great night.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for coming. Thank you to our candidates again for running. Primaries on August 20th, so get out and vote, and y'all have a great evening.